Hi there. Welcome back to the AnyVoices podcast. I'm your host, Mel Allen. And in today's episode, I'm going to help you uncover and learn some about your recording space. By the end of today's episode, you'll have the answers to resources to today's question. So make sure to check the show notes for any relevant links on what we've discussed. First off, I wanted to help share with you. I retweeted recently a LA Vocal Booths giveaway from the Society of Voice Arts and Sciences and LA Vocal Booths. So check that out. A link to the tweet is in the show notes, and that giveaway sign up is happening. I think it's through February 20th, 2021. I don't know the exact model's value, but I know they have models starting at around $3,000. So it is a great opportunity. Okay. So what if you don't win the booth? How can you get yourself a booth or a proper recording space for little to no money? Well, that's what I'm here to help you out with today. So let's start at the beginning. When I did my first recording from home, I used pillows. They were stuffed into boxes. They were all surrounding my first microphone, and I held a quilt over my head, just a plain old quilt. So that was not optimal. It's a site, though, that you will see. Maybe you'll even do it yourself. If you are ever traveling in a hotel room, you might do just that same kind of thing. So next, I recorded in my closet, and this was fine in my first closet. I had clothes all around me, and it actually had three sides that it had clothes on, so I just talked right into them. And there was a shelf overhead, and I had more stuff up there. So that was great. When I moved into a place where that wasn't the case, where clothes were on either side of me, but there was a wall or the door, and there were 12-foot high ceilings, it didn't work. I couldn't make that space work almost at all. So what did I do then to get my recording back in place? Well, I talked into bookshelves. So I took care to arrange a whole bunch of books, alternating sizes and depths. So I tried to make sure that it was as random as possible. And the reason for that is that it breaks up any of the standing sound waves, which is, of course, your enemy. That's what causes your reflections and the boominess and the echoiness that makes it sound like you're in a big box. So a friend of mine also swears by putting the books this way so that you only see this part of the book. You don't see the binding. And I never did that, but she swears by it. So try that. It makes your books really hard to find, but if they're books that it doesn't matter, that may be a great opportunity for you as well. So next, what did I do? Well, I found a bunch of cubicle walls for free, and a local call center was moving. They said they needed to get rid of them. And here's the thing, they would only give them away if I took a dozen. I was a bit overwhelmed, but it ended up being perfect. At first, for where I was, I only needed 3 to put in the room that I was using. I think that was actually the closet. But when I moved, I ended up having a whole big room in the basement. The problem was that it was not too far from an airport. So I built a room within that room. I even laid the sections over the top. I couldn't stand up completely in it, but I had a stool and I could sit up enough so that I actually could take a deep breath. And that ended up being a really great recording space. Actually, before where I am now, it was the best place that I'd ever recorded in. So where I am now, let's talk about that in just a moment. Okay, so we've gone through some of the inexpensive ways, going from pillows to cubicle walls, closets, and bookshelves. So where I am now, I'm actually in a small closet, and I've got shelves all around me that I've got boxes tucked up in. And one of the reasons for that is that I want to break up any of those sound waves that are up there. You'll also notice that I have what are called sound blankets, producer's choice sound blankets. Now behind these, I actually still have some of the cubicle walls. So that's really handy. That one is stuff behind it, and it has a producer's choice sound blanket, and it's basically acting like a bass trap in this back corner. And then I've got another cubicle wall in front of me. I've got one beside me, and I have a bunch of acoustic foam. Now, this was actually a great find. I was literally just about to order a bunch just like this. This is really nice and thick, and this is about 2 inches thick, and there are a couple of little dips and valleys that are slightly less than 2 inches, and that's a really good number. I've got that foam, by the way, above me as well, and there are several inches between it and the ceiling. to make sure that the sound waves have to go up, hit the ceiling, and then come back down. And it definitely dulls it enough so that there isn't a big standing wave. There's no echo. And there's carpeting on the floor. I do have a desk that actually, funny enough, has glass shelves, but I have a couple of devices and things on top of that, books, etc., to make that be a dead surface as well. So things aren't reflecting back off of that. If you've got acoustic foam that's like this thick at its thickest, maybe an inch or less, and really thin in those valleys, thin enough where you could put like a staple through it, it's probably not going to actually do much. It might do a little, and if you have it everywhere, it might seem like it's doing a lot. But if you have a thicker foam, you'll actually need to use less of it. And one of the places where you often need foam is in the corners, especially the top corners of a ceiling is really good, but any of the corners as well, to have something that is kind of picking up that bass and what's called a bass trap. So that's something that you definitely can look into. I'm currently about to build some panels using what are called rock board. It's made by Rockwool, and they seem to work pretty well. I've seen some tests that other people have done with them, and I've kind of talked into one or two of them, and it's amazing, it seems, on the surface how well they work. I've had people compare them to Corning 702 or 703, which is a pretty industry standard. If you walk into a studio and you see a panel that's wrapped in fabric on the walls, that's often what you're going to be looking at. They're 2 or 3 inches thick, depending, obviously they're thicker, or some people will stack 2 of the 702 side by side. The rockboard is 2 inches thick as well, but it seems to absorb quite a bit of sound and help keep it from reflecting back. And I've got wood for the frames that are also thick so that it will stand off the walls, and I've got fabric to wrap that in. So when I do that, I'll make sure to take plenty of pictures so that I can share those with you, and we can learn together whether or not that is actually something good. But the whole package of it costs $48, and if it doesn't work for that, it works great for other sound deadening, and it works great as just insulation. So there are some places in my home where I can use it. I'm a homeowner, and I'm always looking to upgrade and do a DIY project here and there. So there's a place where those can be used if they don't work in my studio. So that is something that I plan on doing next. Beyond that, I also plan to use some mass-loaded vinyl. So this space that we're in right now, I plan on lining the walls and the ceiling with mass-loaded vinyl and then putting another layer of sheetrock. And why am I doing that? Well, occasionally when a very large truck goes by, I still hear some of that sound bleeding in. Also, if somebody is using one of those motorcycles, the crotch rocket type variety, or if they have a let's say a loud muffler on their car or no muffler, I occasionally pick up a little bit of that bleeding in too as well. So I want to try to block as much of that out as I can, and mass-loaded vinyl and another layer of sheetrock should help with that. I'll work on a system that will help the sheetrock stand off from the wall so that it's not amplifying the sound, because sometimes if you have sheetrock right up against more sheetrock, it can carry that sound through. So I want to block that, but I also don't want to lose too much of the room. I like the fact that I have a space that I don't feel claustrophobic in, and I want to keep some of that. So we'll see if that works well. I know some people have said that they've used some of the car audio type laments, which usually has rubber, or it has some asphalt, or maybe it's also considered a mass-loaded vinyl. Not sure that I'm going to go that route, but if you've got some feedback on something that you've used for your studio to lower the noise level and the noise floor that is in there, let me know, and I would be happy to share any of the tips that you have, or just share them on the tweets, share them on the blog. And I thank you very much for tuning in. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, or if it's another place where you can leave a review, please definitely leave us that 5-star review. It will help other people find us. So things that you review high up will make us more relevant in the searches. Not ready to give us 5 stars? Well, contact me. Help me understand why and how we can earn that 5-star review from you. Thanks for listening to AnyVoices. Interviews, by the way, are scheduled and coming up. And until next time, let's do just one more take. All right.